All right, now that we have quorum, we can begin. Mr. Westerson, if you will start with a roll call, please.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Councillor Bieber. Here. Councillor Doria.
Present.
Councillor Parker's not present. He's upstairs. He's coming shortly. Okay. Councillor Wolf.
Present.
Councillor Campbell. Councillor Dodick.
I'm here.
Deputy Mayor is not here at the moment.
We'll be popping in and out, but not
Acting
right
Mayor, you were here.
now. I am here.
And Mayor Hagan is also not here. So we do have quorum right
You
now.
can confirm we have quorum perfectly. So I will call us to order then, now that we actually know we have quorum. And we'll begin with the acknowledgement statement. The City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The City of Lethbridge offers respect to the Métis and all who have lived on this land and made Lethbridge their home. So welcome everybody to our CIC meeting of February 19th. Being a CIC, the public can speak on any agenda items. When we get to an agenda item, we will have the presentation or submission brought forward. We will then see if there's any member of the public who wish to speak, and then we'll have questions from the committee. The first motion we are going to look at is the adoption of the agenda. I have a motion from Councillor Bieber. Be it resolved that the February 19th, 2026 agenda of the Councillor Bieber.
Are there any questions?
No.
Then I will call for the vote.
Okay, question has been called. All in favor? And we have a beautiful adopted agenda. My next motion is the consent agenda. I have a motion from Councillor Wolf. Be it resolved that the Community Issues Committee approve the minutes of the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee meeting held on September 3rd, 2025, and authorize the Chair and City Clerk designate to sign the same. Councillor Wolf?
Thank you. Is there anything needing to be added or?
It's just the minutes. It's just to clean that up.
Excellent. Then I'll call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? And the consent agenda is adopted as well. So that moves us on to the first of three presentations. Our first presentation is from Tourism Lethbridge on their strategic plan. And I believe it is Greg Robinson who is presenting. And of course, Aaron Crane, Executive Director, is here as well. So, Mr. Robinson, we will invite you up, and the floor is yours.
The rest of City Council, appreciate the time today. There's a big event happening right now, so I hope that doesn't distract you from the important meeting of the town. Thank you for this opportunity. We'd like to I believe you've got the strategic plan that we have sent out to you. I hope you can pull that up. This year we renewed our strategic plan for 2026 through 2031. And I'd like to first, before we go into that, really recognize, as many of you have some sweet cookies in front of you. I hope, Ryan, you missed out. Sorry, buddy. It is International Destination Professionals Day today. So I'd like to really give a big thank to all of you and our industry partners in the city and our team here at Tourism Lethbridge for their hard work. They do such an amazing job, so thank you for that. Again, my name is Greg Robinson and I'm the board chair, and I'm pleased to have Erin Crane here. I wouldn't be anywhere without her, so there you are. I'll keep this update really brief for you. You've got the strategic plan there. It's really a living document for 5 years. 5 years is a really long time in tourism. It's like dog years. Our board is committed to reviewing and refining this plan regularly and to ensure that it remains aligned with council's direction and community outcomes and initiatives. We're currently participating, as you know, in a cost-benefit analysis, and we're committed to this process. We look forward to clarity around objectives, accountability, and alignment to strengthen our outcomes, and our relationship with the city. The letter that I provided to you on February 10th was really intended to seek process clarity and reinforce our commitment to transparency and collaboration with as to the CBA process. On that front page, at the very bottom left corner, it's a bit of a show and tell today, you will see a blue box there, and we're going to talk about that, and that really is the alignment that the plan reflects. Our largest funding partner, of course, is the City of Lethbridge, and we are committed to working in step with you. If there are specific priorities, outcomes that are measurable, we like them to see them emphasized. This framework allows us to adapt quickly and really without rewriting the entire strategy. Second, we are community-led. Tourism is delivered by attractions, welcoming guests, hotels, filling beds, venues renting space, restaurants serving guests, and event organizers creating experiences and opportunities all throughout the city. Our model ensures industry voices are directly involved through our board, our advisory committee, and through our working groups. We guide strategy with industry-informed partners and with market-based insight. Third, we take a destination-first approach. We focus on growing demand for Lethbridge. If visitors don't choose the destination, there are no rooms to fill and no tickets to sell. Our job is to bring people here. When we do that, the entire visitor economy benefits. Now, on the back, if you go all the way to the bottom, thank you to whoever in Ausland is controlling it. On the back of the plan, there's another blue box. It is really grounded in stakeholder and resident feedback from 2024. It aligns with provincial and national destination management best practices and builds on our previous plan, which was working well, while strengthening governance, clarity, and advocacy. And you may notice that this plan emphasizes framework over fixed numeric targets. That is intentional. The strategic plan sets our direction and priorities. Our annual action plan sets these measurable targets. That separation keeps us accountable while allowing flexibility in an incredibly volatile industry. Ultimately, our focus is quite simple. Grow the visitor economy in a way that aligns with Council's direction and benefits local businesses. If there are areas where alignment can be clearer, we welcome that conversation and encourage it. We view it as collaboration, leveraging each organization's strength to achieve shared economic outcomes for the city. Thank you so much for your time. And again, thank you for your constant help in really making the city a truly an amazing destination for Southern Alberta. Lastly, I'd like to thank the Tourism Lethbridge staff and particularly Erin Crane. She is a tremendous resource for tourism in our city and economic growth, and she's been leading the team amazingly well. So thank you, Erin. Now, if you have any questions after this or before this, I would encourage you to reach out to me. As council members, I encourage you to ask any questions to me of what's going on. If you have you're looking for clarity of information, please let me know. I'll leave questions now open to you guys.
Oh, I don't think you have to worry about this group having questions. They usually do. But before we see if this group has questions, we have to turn to the public. I think everybody's here for something on the agenda, so I don't think anybody is here for this specifically that has a question. But does anyone in the public have a question or a comment they would like to make? All right, please come on up, state your name for the record. And if you could spell it, because we've never heard it before. Go ahead, you have up to 5 minutes. Go right ahead.
So Michelle Day Miles, Executive Director for Nikiyuko Japanese Garden. So today, past President, Chair of Tourism Lethbridge. So on behalf of the Lethbridge and District Japanese Garden Society, and here we have our president, Don Tsukimoto, who is in attendance today as well. We just want to applaud Tourism Lethbridge for the work that they're doing for destination development, because Nikiyuko Japanese Gardens, we realize that we don't have the resources and we need our destination management organization to lead the way for the future success of Nikiyuko Japanese Garden. So we look at them as our leaders and our guides for tourism attraction and destination development, because at the end of the day, Nikiyuko Japanese Garden, it's not just about the visitor, it's about our local residents. And Nikiyuko gives us space and place for our residents to engage with our attraction, which makes us authentic. And it also makes a great part of our community and being part of this destination. So I just want to applaud the vision, and we are so honored to be part of the ecosystem that this destination management organization is trying to achieve too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Day Miles. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, so we will then move to questions from committee. I do see a few people in the queue. Councillor Bieber, if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation, Greg. You know, I've got a few questions, but first of all, I mean, we hear different talks about tourism, destination hub, or is it a hub for exploring the area? And in the strategic plan, I'm just kind of wondering what you guys see as your role. Is it promoting tourism in Lethbridge, or promoting Lethbridge as a base for people to explore the outside area?
I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to take that question. Again, Erin Crane, I'm the CEO for Tourism Lethbridge. And we do talk about Lethbridge as being a destination hub. And there's lots of development that is happening in and around the region. Many of you will have heard that the Castle region is going to be one of those locations for an all-seasons resort. This is going to mean great things for the city and the region. So we do bring people to Lethbridge as visitors, but we can't ignore the great things that happen around us in the region. So we talk about the UNESCO World Heritage Hub. Again, you know, some of the exciting agri-food tourism that is happening in our area, the indigenous tourism that happens in our area. Some of those things do not exist inside the city of Lethbridge. So if we were only talking about Lethbridge, we would be leaving some of those things out. So we have to look at it as a symbiotic relationship that we're good for them and they are good for us. And it's moving that forward that's really going to help us succeed.
In the plan, you talk about an identity, an authentic identity. What does Tourism Lethbridge see potentially as Lethbridge's identity?
Oh, great question. You know, again, it is that idea of a hub, right? This is your area for hotels, for restaurants, for entertainment. We have some great attractions, but again, one of those things that draws people to us, especially leisure travelers, and one of the things that we focus on, which is travel trade, the tour operators bringing in some of those international markets, is the idea of all of the other things that happen around us. One of the things that, you know, we talk about a lot in the plan is the work that we do on business events and sport tourism. And this is where Lethbridge really can shine and has over the last few years. We worked really closely with the Lethbridge Sport Council for the last 3 years on sport tourism. And, you know, some of the work that they did was really tracking that economic benefit of sport tourism. And it was 18 million that we saw coming into our community. And that wasn't, you know, all of the big events, right? That didn't even include, you know, things you know, like the Tim Hortons Briar, which was 19 million for just 1 week, right? But $18 million comes into our community on average every year just for like regional, provincial events. You know, that's big business, and that's great for all of the tourism businesses that rely on, you know, that additional business to grow. You're welcome.
Councillor Wolf, please go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the presentation from the chair. I think you made a good point that tourism is always changing. It's like you have to be nimble. So given our current situation where we know that the costs for tourists to go down south will be a lot higher in their national parks, $100 per person, US dollars and things like this. We know that demand and attendance in Waterton was way up last year. Is it reasonable? Are we content with our efforts to capitalize on the current environment and the current demand for somewhere like Waterton and our ability to be the gateway to that? I guess to further my question, like when I'm on your website, Tourism Lethbridge, I think that's you. Is that you? Like there's nothing about Waterton that I can find under hiking or under attractions. And I just wonder if that's a missed, I might not be able to find it, but if that's like under outdoor activities, there's nothing. I just wonder if we're missing a major attraction that particularly now has a focus on it.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wolf. You will find it on our website under the UNESCO section, but hearing those comments, again, is that something that we should be highlighting a little bit more? And to answer your first question, no, we are never satisfied with, where we sit. We're always looking for what more we could be doing, what other target markets we could look at. I mentioned, when Councillor Bieber asked the question about, those international markets. And this is a big one for Canada, but as well as Alberta, and even for us, right? We know here in Lethbridge that visiting friends and relatives is our #1 tourism market, right? These are all the people coming to see our residents. However, that travel trade market, those international travelers coming to see those UNESCO World Heritage Sites, they come with a much higher visitor spend than anybody who's traveling within Canada. And that means that for every new traveler, we're tripling that visitor spend. And that's a big one for us. And I think those UNESCO World Heritage Sites really help us get there. The all-season resort that I talked about, that's really going to help us get there. So, when we think about things like sustainability and making sure that we don't become one of those destinations that gets overrun with tourism, right? This is where the balance is. Maybe it's not so much more people, it's the same amount of people spending more money, and how we do that and get them to stay longer and participate more in the visitor economy.
Thank you, thank you.
Councillor Doria, go right ahead, please.
Okay, thank you, Acting Mayor. My question is for Erin again. I'm sorry for that. When I spent a little time with you in the visitor area, visitor hub, you discuss about the agricultural component as one of our attraction in tourism. And you also mentioned this time with the answer you provided that there is a symbiotic relationship, not only with Lethbridge, but all the surrounding areas. Hopefully we can have promotion of the food corridor hub. My question is this: is there a real roadmap to come up with this launching of attraction? I observe this is one of your pillars, like tell a good story about Lethbridge. Is there really a roadmap for you to present this, and at the same time, at the end of the year, maybe present back to the city of Lethbridge and how we are doing in relationship with the surrounding municipalities, or with a symbiotic relationship with other communities? Can you please help me clarify on that part, Erin? Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Doria. Yes, we participate with not only our provincial partners, but our national partners and our international partners on agri-food tourism. Many of you will remember that back in 2023, we did win the Canadian Tourism Award for agri-food tourism, which was very exciting and really started us on that path. There's a fantastic national association called Culinary Tourism, Canadian Culinary Tourism, that we work very closely with to tell that agri-food story out to a broader market. You know, one of the things that we're always looking at is how to differentiate ourselves in our market space, right? There's so much competition in destinations when we go out and we're trying to, you know, sell Lethbridge to event planners and sport tourism organizers and travel agents, and even in that leisure space, right? So the agri-food tourism, and, you know, again, going back to that branding of this area as Canada's premier food corridor really helps us establish that. These are the unique things that you get here in Lethbridge that you don't get anywhere else, right? You can't go to Calgary and, you know, go out and pull sugar beets out of a field. You can't go and, you know, see you know, some pork being processed at Broke Pork Acres, and, you know, these things happen here in our region, right? We had the opportunity to chat with Robert Luco from Luco Mustard and Farms this morning, right? And, you know, again, hearing some of those stories, that's what people want to see. They want that interaction, and we can provide it to them. So we do have a strong agri-food tourism plan in place that's implemented year after year. Some of you may remember that, I think it was near the end of last year, we had a fantastic article in the Calgary Herald that saw a fantastic reach, you know, across the country about, you know, our agri-food tourism story and, you know, being able to go and connect with those producers. So these are the impacts that we provide back to the community.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you.
Councillor Bieber, please go ahead.
Just one final question. Sorry for taking so much time, but in your plan, I see you refer to talking about potential new partners. Who potentially could these partners be as you help develop tourism here?
Again, our primary partner is the city, right? And that will be the case. As Erin mentioned, when you look at tourism, the opportunities for economic growth within the city, we can't look at it in isolation of strictly the city alone. We do try to extend opportunity to fund our growth and those opportunities for attraction outside of our region, within our region, as long as it aligns with what our goals are and it creates that symbiotic approach that Erin really talked about very well. We have partners with Travel Alberta. We have partnership with TAIA. You know, there are other organizations that are in the business of tourism that also help provide us funds, not to the same level of the city, of course, but there are other partners as well, not other just strictly municipalities, but other associations. Can I add something? Oh, sure.
You know, I don't remember the timing, but many of you will remember that we worked very closely with our Travel Alberta provincial partners on tourism development zones. That really helped spearhead some Destination Canada projects around corridor development. And you'll remember that the Highway 3 corridor, Prairies to Pacific, a sustainable journey, was one of the first 3 that was identified by Destination Canada. So we have continued work on that front, working with our regional partners, other destination management organizations, individual businesses, municipalities, all along that Highway 3 corridor to really, develop that, to meet those needs that Destination Canada wants in order to attract those international visitors. That's their big job, is to go after the international visitors. We need to build and develop the tourism product to help get them here. And that's a big part of what we do.
Thank you. So we are your largest funder. We set you out, we have a fee-for-service agreement with you, but you are a separate organization. So how do you report back, and how do we, on behalf of the residents of Lethbridge, know we are getting good bang for the buck and good service on behalf of our residents? How do you report out? This is your strat plan, this is a different thing, but when do we get your report, and how do we know it's being effective?
Great question, Councillor Crowson, thank you. So on our website, tourismlethbridge.com, there is an About Us section, and under that there are reports. So we report our outcomes every 6 months. We do a mid-year kind of check-in to make sure that the plans we put in place are actually bringing results. And if they're not, how then do we pivot at the 6-month mark rather than waiting until the very end? So we have that check-in. Then usually around that March timeframe, we do the end of year reports. Here's what happened in 25. So our team is pulling all of that information. We're still waiting on some StatsCan data and some hotel data to, come to fruition, because of course we're always a few months behind on our analytics. But we'll be producing that. So at our annual general meeting, we always share that information. It is always open and transparent to the public. What you'll see is you'll always see our strategic plan. This new one will be uploaded to that. We wanted you to see it first before, sharing it more broadly. But you'll see our yearly action plan, then those outcomes, and our financial statements. Once again, this is all open to the public. We are using public funds. Therefore, we know that we should be open and transparent with not only you, but city administration and the residents who, these are their funds that we use to do this work. So we do share that. A few years ago, we did make a commitment to come and present to you twice a year, right? Again, to share that information, that 6-month check-in, and then the end of the year. I think this is one of the things that we're working on through the cost-benefit analysis is, what that looks like. We do have a city-appointed representative on our board now, Ms. Jen Norsworthy, from the visitlethbridge.com arena. And we've been working very closely with community services and that team who have been, very supportive of us. And we're always sharing, those board meeting minutes so that the lines of communication are open. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Oh.
Just to add to that, to emphasize the fact that we are a community-led organization, our advisory committees really are the heart of our organization. We have a number of members from the community, from facilities, from hotels to other museums and all sorts of organizations within our city, the college, university. Everybody's represented in those spaces, and they're free to talk about the directions and the opportunities that are in front of us to make the city truly amazing. So those voices are always part of this process. So you might feel that Erin dominates the microphone sometimes, but I want to make sure that you are aware that, and she does a great job, that it's really where that action happens is really in those advisory committees. And we love the fact that people volunteer their time to take part of that conversation, whether you're in the sports attraction or the business, or, there's a number, we have Indigenous, we have a number of subcommittees. It's amazing work that happens, and they see what we're doing and we get that input from them. It's truly a transparent, bottom-up process.
My next question is, You've talked about how you work in partnership. We get very worried when people work in silos. We like to see partnerships, but we fund a multitude of organizations. So when you talk about sports tourism, we also have a sports council, et cetera. So how do you make sure you're working in synchronicity with those organizations and not overlapping the same services with those organizations? How do you find that line?
Thank you for that. Again, as Mr. Robinson mentioned, that, we do have 3 tourism advisory committees where the public is invited in to share that information. We have developed right now a sport tourism working group. We held our second meeting yesterday and are working on a terms of reference for that. And many of you will know that from past budgets and presentations that we actually signed a memorandum of agreement with the Lethbridge Sport Council to do sport tourism. We also brought in our national partner, the Sport Tourism Canada, to help us develop a strategy and a plan for moving forward. So we're in our final year of that plan. 2026 is the final year of that plan, and putting together those pieces to help reduce barriers to anyone who wants to host something in this city in order to do exactly what you said, Councillor Crowson, and that is, to break down some of those silos. In order to win bids, and this is something that we've talked about before, and we've put in for a few and haven't been successful, we all need to be working together. We talk about this destination first model, and this is what a lot of our competitors are doing extremely well. And I'm going to reference Atlantic Canada because they've been winning tons of those bids. And this is the model that they've done, right, is they've come together, they've brought in all of the partners, and they work together when they're putting those bids in place to say, here's all the support we have, here's all of the people working on your behalf to make sure that your event is successful. And that's what we're doing, not only on the sport tourism side, but we've been doing tons of work on the business event side to really train our private partners, because business events, that's a lot of what it is. It's private industry really bringing that in. And while, we work alongside them, what we can really do is help, train them and give them, some of those prospecting tools, some of the we're working on a project right now that will give them the tools about the exciting things happening in our city in order to share with the event organizers that they're working with to bring into our city. So there's a lot of work to break down those barriers. We do have work still to do. And, like when I answered Councillor Wolf's question, right, we're never satisfied. We're always looking to improve. And again, if the cost benefit analysis, has those constructive feedback about how we can do things better, that's what we're looking forward to hearing.
Thank you. I see that Councillor Campbell has come into the queue. Councillor Campbell, floor is yours.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. Just you got your strategic plan, you've got your hopes, your aspirations, your goals, your dreams, and I'm just wondering, at the end of the year, what does a successful tourism look like? What is it that you're saying? Okay, we knew what we were doing and we got to this point. What is it that makes this a success?
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Success really means stronger year-round visitor economy, higher off-season visitation, more business events, more sport tournaments, things that are more measurable in growth. We want those, the growth in room nights that are being booked and hotels that are being booked, and more visitor spending. That's really what success looks like. It also means a stronger alignment with you. Diversify our revenue, and really lead and help focus the tourism industry in the city broadly, not just within the fences of the city, but also in Alberta and Western Canada.
Good, thanks.
Now, anybody knows if you want me to pay attention, put the word policy into anything. I see you're working with the City of Lethbridge on a municipal tourism policy. We're supposed to be seeing it this year. Do we have a sense, and perhaps that is from administration, do we have a sense when and what it will actually entail and when we can look forward to that?
I'm getting my 10,000 steps in. We would definitely encourage the city to adopt a tourism policy, and that really, we're going through a cost-benefit analysis, and it's ironic that we're leading that without having some of that foundational work done prior to that. But we would definitely be wanting to be participatory in that process to help and advise. I feel that our organization has the expertise and is in touch with your key stakeholders within the city to help advise what that plan should look like. And it really is a two-way plan. There's no one plan that just suits one person. It's really for the whole community as a whole. And we definitely would encourage the city to do that and also invite us to be part of that process.
Okay.
Aaron would like to add something to that.
Because I love the microphone. I also would encourage the work to include reaching out to some of those tourism experts in the province and even across Canada. We have close working relationships with both Travel Alberta and Destination Canada, as I mentioned. And there's a lot of work happening in those spaces, right? Many of you will know that there's some legislation potentially coming forward to the province. There was talk at municipalities conference about municipal accommodation tax. We were recently up in Edmonton for the Tourism Industry Association of Alberta. They are a fantastic organization that is grounded in policy development and advocacy and would be, a great one to kind of run ideas by. But one of the questions that came up to the Minister of Tourism and Sport, the Honorable Andrew Boychenko, was about the municipal accommodation tax. And his response was, that we really need to look at the current mechanisms in place. The tourism levy fee, the TLF, which is non-voluntary and charged on every hotel night in the province, and the destination marketing fee, which is voluntary and same thing, for those participating hotels charged to those visitors. So, how do we, rather than adding in a new tax, how do we make sure that, there's, strategy and efficiency in the current structures that are in place before adding something new on. So I would encourage, as you look at policy, that there are partners, the Tourism Industry Association of Canada, because we are not the only destination, looking at policies. They exist, throughout, and maybe there's some good and some bad that we can adopt, within that.
And my final question, in your strategic plan, in your work, what is a tourist? Who are you actually doing this work to try to attract?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you asked that question because, I'm sure it comes up numerous times in our strategic plan, but we always try and talk about this idea of the visitor economy, right? The idea of a tourist is, definitely someone from outside of your community coming in. But one of the things that, as was made clear by Ms. Day Miles, is that we can't forget about those residents, right? The residents are really important to us, not only because they provide their own economic impact into our areas, but we know that visitors like to go where residents go. And so what's important to them is also going to be important to visitors. And, that's the philosophy that we take on, that, you know, yes, we look at visitors coming from outside of our community in, but that we always need to take care of those residents and to make sure that, you know, they have what they need, because they're also our best champions for bringing new people in, right? That's how, you know, that's a big part of our storytelling. And, you know, one of those things that we've often focused on over the last few years is how do we build up those tourism champions? How do we find those people who help us tell our story to a broader audience?
Thank you very much. I don't see anyone else in the queue, so you can have a seat in the audience again, and we will move to the motion. The motion, which must have been done before it was found out I was chairing, is being brought forward by me. And it is, be it resolved that the Community Issues Committee receive the Tourism Lethbridge Strategic Plan for information. And so this is for information. Are there any questions on the motion or any debate? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Yes, you can absolutely bribe them now that you're done. Thank you very much, and Mr. Robinson, for the cookies for Destination Professional Day, as well as for the presentation. We move now to our second agenda item, a presentation on Community Safety Strategy Update. Ms. Sherry from the Community Safety Specialist from CSD will be presenting. Ms. Kleisinger, do you or anyone want to speak to us beforehand? Okay. So Ms. Sherry, if you'd like to come forward, we'll hear your presentation, see if there's anyone in the public who wishes to ask questions, and then we will go from there. And I see Mr. Malcolm, you are joining her. Okay. You're open for questions as well later on? Okay, perfect. Ms. Sherry, the floor is yours. Please go right ahead.
We're good. We can hear me. Good afternoon. My name is Allison Cherry. I'm the Community Safety Specialist, and today I'm here to provide an update on the Community Safety Strategy, highlighting progress to date and the work that is currently underway. There we go. To give some background, in April 2024, the Downtown Lawlessness Reduction Task Force recommended renewing the Downtown Clean and Safe strategy. And in December 2024, Council approved a 2-year term community safety specialist to lead the coordination. In April 2025, the Downtown Lawlessness Reduction Task Force transitioned into the Community Safety Strategy Committee, and the work expanded from a downtown focus to a citywide community safety action plan. To start, it's important to note that Lethbridge currently doesn't have a standalone community safety strategy, and what we're presenting today is essentially the expansion of the Downtown Clean and Safe strategy. As the work evolves, it became clear that the challenges we were responding to are not downtown specific, and they are citywide issues. This naturally grew into what will be the Community Safety Action Plan. A lot of great work has already been completed, and here we have our foundational strategies starting very high level with our Municipal Development Plan, CWSS, and our LPS strategic plan. And below, we have our focus strategies, including the Downtown Clean and Safe and the original task force work. So the action plan essentially will gap the very high level strategy to the on-the-ground support. We have our Community Safety Strategy Committee, which provides advisory oversight and coordination of the Community Safety Action Plan, brings together city departments, downtown partners, emergency services, and community stakeholders to ensure that the work is informed, aligned, and responsive to emerging community safety issues. And with many of the committee members joining us today in the audience, I wanted to give them props and commend their hard work and support for their commitment on improving our city. Our vision is simple. Lethbridge should be a safe community for everyone, and that means people feel secure, supported, and part of a thriving city. Early on, a lot of the conversation focused on enforcement, on whether we could solve these issues by simply responding harder and faster. What we learned and what many CSSC members can speak to is that enforcement alone cannot get us there. That understanding is what led us to a truly balanced approach. And today our work is grounded in 4 connected pillars: education, prevention, intervention, and enforcement. When looking at data, these surveys give us a really clear picture of what Lethbridge residents are experiencing. In the BSCF Community Safety Strategy, residents identified substance use and homelessness as major concerns, along with issues like property crime and access to health supports. The LPS 2024 Community Survey showed that while most residents are satisfied with policing, the number one thing that people wanted to see more of is crime prevention. And we've also looked at best practices from other municipalities. Things like alternative response models, the importance of youth prevention programs, and better usage of data. So these examples will help us see and learn what is working elsewhere and how we can fit it into the Lethbridge context. Social disorder is a critical area of focus because it reflects the behaviors and conditions that residents observe in their daily lives. We can compare this to an iceberg. Social disorder is the part of the iceberg that we see, so examples of substance use, distress, encampments, but the bulk of the iceberg sits below the waterline. So you'll see things, the housing gaps, mental health challenges, and addiction. Part of this work is acknowledging what residents are seeing and feeling, and part of it is recognizing that long-term safety comes from addressing the causes and not just the symptoms. This is where we are today. We continue to support frontline response through coordinated programs, addressing cleanliness, outreach, and community well-being. And at the same time, we're investing in training, research, and system improvements to strengthen prevention and evidence-based decision-making. Finally, we're exploring initiatives to improve effectiveness and sustainability of safety over time. Here we've highlighted several initiatives we're currently exploring with internal partners and the Community Safety Strategy Committee. These are not finalized projects, but areas where we see opportunities to strengthen community safety, improve coordination, and address emerging challenges. We have divided the Community Safety Action Plan into phases, and we are currently in phase 1, current actions and strategy development. I will now turn it over to Andrew Malcolm to speak on the remaining phases. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. So as we move into phase 2, our proposed approach, which we will be bringing back to you in the next few months, would be to utilize existing funds from existing downtown safety initiatives that have not been fully spent. These are currently sitting in the BAU or the CBC account, and our intention would be to use those funds to complete one-time requests, getting us further along in terms of research, best practice, and new initiative development, which would be presented as part of phase 3 to council as part of the 2027 for the 2028 operating budget. Our plan here is to not ask for any new money, to make use of funds that have already been allocated towards safety initiatives, and then to present anything new alongside with the rest of the budget items as part of that 2032 operating budget. Once those assuming some of those are approved, we would then move forward in implementing those, bringing back a strategy review in 2031 following 5 years of implementation. So that is our planned phased approach with this. The next time you'll be hearing from Allison and myself will be in the next few months when we bring forward a final action plan for City Council's consideration. And just before we wrap up, I did want to acknowledge again the folks that are behind me. This is a group effort, and we've been supported in a number of these initiatives and in the items that we'll be talking about in the next 2 presentations from Lethbridge Police Service, Lethbridge Fire and EMS, our Community Safety Strategy Committee, the Downtown BRZ, and the Clean Sweep Program. We're very grateful for their efforts and are joined by them today, and I'm sure they'll be willing. I'm suggesting they'll be willing to answer questions as well. So thank you.
Thank you, both of you. Just before we do see if there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak, let's just confirm a few things. Today, this is just for information. When you come back, it is council who would have to approve the plan that comes back. It's not, administration creates it, but we would have to confirm it. You are not asking for any money right now. You're not even asking for use of that money right now. You're just letting us know you will eventually be asking us for use of that money.
That is correct, and I'll maybe ask if the city treasurer wants to speak specifically to the CBC. My understanding is that council doesn't have to approve it, but our intention would be to frame out how we intend to use it for your knowledge, but I'll let city treasurer speak to the specifics.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm, and to your question, Acting Mayor Crowson, in regards to the financial pieces there on this, what's classified as CBC, which is our carryover, business unit committed carryovers. On it, this program actually will have committed carryovers. The department can utilize those funds for those nature. What they're doing is they're coming forward in this example, giving a much more detailed discussion around the use of this and making sure that, you know, that council understands where they're heading to and the impacts.
So this is a check-in. You can spend that money because it's already been approved operationally into this area, but kind of letting us know you're going to be doing that. And the next time you come back, council would have a chance to confirm or not the next plan.
That's correct.
So just so everybody's on the same page before we, go into wrong directions with questions. All right. Is there anyone from the public who would wish to speak on this matter at this time? You have up to 5 minutes. Please make sure your name is provided so Mr. Westerson can write it down and you are in the records for all time.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Matthew McHugh. I'm a member of this committee. It's a great presentation. I wasn't planning on speaking today because really I didn't know I could, so I just wanted to say I like this new format as opposed to the SPC. This is really great. And I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't say something because I just checked my phone and it's been since November of 2022. It's been over 3 years that I actually spoke to this council as a very frustrated citizen that there was absolutely no plan on what we were doing with the situation that we had. I know a lot of communities all across Canada were forced with it, but that's how I felt. And here we are right now with this plan. I think you've just talked about it. There's no allocation of funds or anything like that. But here we are over 3 years later with a plan. And that's better than where we were a long time ago. So I just wanted to actually say a few things. Thanks to Andrew and Carly and everybody that's been part of this. This is not just community members coming forward, but this is really people from the city of Lethbridge listening. They really listened to what the concerns were of everybody that was downtown, people that were on the BRZ. And as a member of the committee and as one of those people, I feel really proud of what we've done. And like as Andrew mentioned, this is EMS, this is fire, this is police, this is waste and recycling coming together, this is bylaws, this is everybody. Really what we did for the last 3 years was look at all the cracks in the system. Where was all the overlap? Where were the things that nobody was looking at? And this has really kind of exposed all that and come together with a plan. So whatever funds get allocated to this committee in the future, we know where they should go or what they could be used to do. So I hope you guys support this, and I just wanted to say that. So thanks to everybody from the city of Lethbridge for listening and for getting us to where we're at today. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else from the community who wishes to speak? Okay. All right, so my first question for you is, one of the things is you want to expand this citywide, but when I look at your membership, you have downtown business owners, you have additional community stakeholders. I always love those ones because, who is it? But the problems now are moving to Stafford. The problems are moving around. How open are you to adding to your membership so that people who are now is equally frustrated because things have moved to different places can have a say as well?
Thank you, Councillor Crowson, for the question. So we are open to individuals and coming either to participate in a singular meeting and share their concerns with us or looking at adding them to the full committee. The terms of reference for the committee that has been operating as administrative committee was set around delivering this community action plan. So we're actually quite close to that. And then we'll be looking at revising that terms of reference based on the direction of the plan in terms of how that committee might exist beyond the delivery of the plan. So I think that could be the alternate way to look at it. On top of that, operationally, we do meet regularly with business members and community members who have frustrations with scenarios, and whether that's Lethbridge Police or our encampment team or myself, we will go out to meet with people and understand their concerns. head on and meet them where they're at. And so I think there's a combination of both to be incorporated into this. And then, yes, this plan will or attempt to go community-wide in terms of trying to break down some of those barriers of hard boundaries where programs previously ended. That being said, some of those will come with additional costs, which will be considered and presented at a later date.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for the report here. One of your 4 pillars here is mentioned as being education. And I'm just wondering, it's kind of broad, but what is it that you want people to be educated on? Who are you trying to get to, and who's doing the educating? And like, is it data driven? Is this, we have these problems because of A, B, and C? Where do you get, like, kind of describe a little more of what education looks like?
Councillor Campbell. So it is quite broad because the issues that we're dealing with are very broad and complex. But when we're talking about education, it's building that awareness and understanding accountability and action. So within that, is there a main player? Not necessarily, but I think the services that are providing services out in the community, our police service, Lethbridge Fire EMS, and us as a municipality all play a role in providing that education. A really direct example is our educators through Building Safer Communities. They're out in the schools ensuring that there is awareness, toolkits that parents, guardians, teachers, and first responders are able to access so that they can guide somebody that is in a vulnerable situation to the right resources. So that's just one example, but education in itself is not necessarily meaning school specifically, but awareness in general.
So if I'm just a guy who owns a business downtown, say, and I need to be educated on something, what is it that he needs to know? What are some of the things that you really want to develop so that this person is well aware of everything?
So for a business owner, I won't speak, but Sarah might be a better person to ask for this, but something that we've been really looking into is that expansion of the crime prevention through environmental design. So business owners that are experiencing some major hits in crime or criminal activity, we can go and educate and say, maybe we should do lighting in this area, or you could do this to prevent these sort of things are happening. And when we spoke at community conversations, a lot of the things that we were talking about, the community wasn't even aware of the things that we have, right? So one of the biggest things is getting out there and ensuring that there are options of, if you are a business and you're experiencing crime, you can apply for our CEPTED grant, and we might be able to support you in preventing future criminal activity.
So what's the plan to get that education out? What methods are you is part of this?
So with our Community Safety Strategy Committee, we have our corporate communications. So we've been looking at different avenues on how we would be able to present, and we're looking at best practices in other municipalities on how they're getting this education out there. So it may be going to a school, it may be hosting a town hall, or it may be just a simple post on our social media.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, you are next.
Thank you very much, and thank you both for the report. This is great. It's good to have an update on this. You spoke a little bit about the education that you shared at the community conversations. Can you tell me about some of the comments from attendees you received from community conversations?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. So we had an activity where we hosted an in-person and online activity. We were asking residents if they had $100 where they would invest it in community safety, as well as we were asking, if they could recommend one new initiative, and when they hear the word community safety, what comes to mind. As for the allocations, we had 46 participants, so $4,600 essentially of participants wanting to allocate, and it was relatively balanced throughout. The lowest amount was the education, of only receiving 14%, but ironically, there was a lot of education that needed to be had of, well, do we have a downtown police unit? Well, we actually do. We have a great downtown police unit. Some of the comments that we're seeing is when they're hearing the words community safety, they want safety for our unhoused neighborhoods, peaceful, early intervention, able to walk anywhere without worry, resources, people looking out for people, prevention, inclusivity, right response, and addressing root causes of crime. And as for initiatives, we were talking about 24/7 mental health teams, drop-in work opportunities, community policing, better public transit and shelter space, storage for unhoused individuals, and building relationships. So it really was a spectrum of responses, but it was really nice to see that it was really across that spectrum.
Yeah, and good information for us to have as we take forward and move forward with any new initiatives. What new initiatives out of that are you thinking of bringing forward? Like what sort of rose to the top for you on this?
It's really too soon to tell.
Okay.
But we're certainly exploring the feedback that we received from community conversations.
Okay, and we'll look forward to seeing that coming back as
Thank you.
well. One other question I have, if I may. In the presentation, there's a reference to the alternative response business case. Can you help me understand what that is?
So within our best practices and the research that we've done, we've been able to meet with many municipalities across Canada and the United States. They are turning to this response model to support diversion of calls, specifically mental health from police, to reduce strain on police, but also to ensure that there's a right response. So with that, to be able to implement something like that within the city, we want to ensure that it is the right fit and that it would be obtainable. So the business case would be building out what that would look like, terms of reference, and how that would fit into our system and balance with our police service.
And that's something we would be having conversations with our provincial partners on, correct?
Yeah, if I could jump in on that one is, so that the development of that business case would be something that we would be looking to spend a little bit of the money on over the next period of time, getting us to the operating budget, recognizing that adopting an alternative response model is going to likely come with a significant either reallocation of existing resources or new resources. And so we would be taking the time between now and the next operating budget discussion to work with Lethbridge Police Service to actually present a model of what that would look like for Lethbridge. And we're lucky that we have Deputy Chief Grobmeyer, who has done a great deal of work in alternative response. And so if there's more on those steps in terms of what that might look like, I might ask that he come and speak to it because it is directly in his wheelhouse.
Okay, thank you very much. Deputy Chief Grobmeyer, if you would like to come and sort of give us an outline on what that looks like? Please.
He sat in the back for a reason.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm calling him up.
Good afternoon. It's a great question. It's a massive question. I started looking into it a couple years ago after a presentation from the Chief of Police in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They started an alternative response because it was basically mandated. They had the level of violence between police and the citizens of Albuquerque was out of control. The deputy or the Department of Justice basically took over full control over the police service in Albuquerque, and they did that for a number of years. So Albuquerque was looking to see what they could do differently, and just policing wasn't the answer. So the alternative response, and every city does it a little bit different. But what they were looking at was taking away some of those calls for service that are going to police officers that police officer doesn't require a police officer. So it wasn't just about saving time for the police, although that certainly did happen, but it was about getting the right resources to the right individuals at the right time. And so they created an alternative response unit from within the city of Albuquerque. So they did not have grants for other agencies, non-government agencies to do this. They decided to do it in-house, and they hired social workers. They hired a variety of different people, depending on what type of calls for service that they were going to respond to. And it can be anything from a person that needs a simple welfare check, somebody that's downtown that is acting weird, somebody that's maybe passed out those calls that don't necessarily need a police officer. Because unfortunately, and I don't have the stats right now, police across North America, when we're called to do a welfare check on individuals, because people are worried about their safety, there are cases after cases after cases in which our presence does not de-escalate the situation. It actually makes it significantly worse. And there are numerous cases in which we, police, end up doing harm. And there are several cases in North America which police officers end up shooting and killing somebody. And that is exactly the opposite of what the intention of the welfare check is. So that's what we're looking at doing is creating something that works for Lethbridge. We're not Albuquerque, we're not Vancouver, we're not Calgary. We understand that we have to create something that would fit within the city of Lethbridge and our size and what we can do. But we have to get away from, if you are in a crisis right now in this city, as long as you're in that crisis from Monday to Friday between 8 and 4, there are services available for you. If you're in a crisis afterwards, there's the police and fire. And we're very limited as to what we can do, and we are not helping those individuals. And we are tying up significant police and fire resources for that. So that's what we're looking at, is providing that model in this city that will provide a far larger influence on these individuals, not just Monday to Friday, not something where we are having to work with 4 or 5 different agencies trying to figure something out. So we can have one agency that is helping these individuals, and then sometimes our police are still responding. So it's not an abdication of our responses, because we know we will be responding as well. But there are significant reduction in calls for service. And what they're seeing, and this was not the intention of it, but what they're seeing in some cities is that by creating this alternative response unit, their crime severity index, their crime rates are actually going down. I hope I answered that question.
No, thank you very much. And all three of you, thank you very much. It certainly does demonstrate to us that investment in a program like this is going to save us money in the long run, and it's going to be better for the entire community, as well as the impact on the safety and perceptions of safety that we're seeing. Thank you.
Councillor Bieber, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if the two of you could answer this question, or perhaps it might be best for Ms. Amy, one of the business people in here. But on the subject of the CPTED grant, I remember covering this a few years ago when this whole idea first came out, and there was concerns about public perceptions when they would see roll shutters and bars on windows, and what that might mean to traffic downtown, people shopping. Would it show that it's not safe? Would it give them concerns? Has that impacted the business traffic downtown? Can anybody answer that question?
Hello, Sarah Amies, Executive Director, Downtown Business Revitalization Zone. Thank you for the question, Councillor Bieber. We are seeing more roll shutters in our downtown as a matter of necessity to prevent glass breakage and that sort of thing. But what we are also seeing is a pilot project that has involved Fee Simple Law down on 4th Street opposite the courthouse, wherein their roll shutters have been designed by a local artist, and instead of plain white or black shutters, there is a really colorful abstract art on his roll shutters, and I think to this date they have not been interfered with. Am I correct? Yeah. So research shows that taggers tend to leave art alone, and they go and make their own art somewhere else on a fresh canvas. And so we're hoping that this is the case. Again, this is a pilot project, and we'll keep an eye on it for the first year of its life.
But I'm just wondering, the perception of safety hasn't been deterred because people are seeing roll shutters. I mean, people are still coming downtown, aren't they? Quite a bit?
People are still coming downtown, and I think, I mean, yes, we have more roll shutters, but we are combining that with increased police presence and dedicated engagement and revitalization, and really, really working hard on persuading community and visitors from outside to continue to come into the downtown and discover the amazing place that it is. It's become quite a lot cleaner over the last couple of months. Our CSP workers are doing amazing jobs, and we've had a few, or a social service move out of the area, which has had quite a lot of impact on the offsite management. And so we truly can say at this point, come on down to a new and improved downtown.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Amy. Go ahead, Councilor Doria.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Thank you, Chair. My question is, I know maybe Mr. Malcolm or Ms. Cherry will answer this. The vision of our community safety strategy is, I mean, very, very good. I really appreciate that we are moving in this, like, we are no longer focusing in downtown area, but the whole Lethbridge city. My question is on, since we have our balanced approach, we will not look into the enforcement to answer the safety of the community. My concern is some of the safety concerns like have a repeats. Although we answer the concern now, they are called by the police or they are like taught on this is not a good thing. So, but again, there are repeats on those events. So how can we measure that our program is sustainable? How we can say that this program is a long-term program? Because we have pilots programs and then there are some repeats, but I just want to know the longevity of the program that we are installing for the safety of our community. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councilor Doria. So I think one of the things that we committed to, and Ali spoke to it, is the data side of things. And so any program that the City of Lethbridge is spending dollars on, either within our own programs like encampment response and outreach, or in contracted programs like the Clean Sweep program and the diversion outreach team as examples, we have reporting metrics required of all of them, and we are gathering that information. And what we're now doing is making adjustments with the existing program dollars to meet what we're seeing in the community. So that would be an ongoing commitment with anything. And as noted in the slide presentation, is we are starting our focus area with reviewing existing programs. And one of those, which we've already started, is with our partners with the Clean Sweep program, because the funding that they receive or started receiving from the City of Lethbridge was about almost 20 years ago, at a time where we were focused on pressure washing bubble gum off the streets and collecting chocolate bar wrappers out of tree grates. Mm-hmm. The things that the Downtown BRZ and the Clean Sweep program are involved in today with helping with our encampment response are completely different. And so what we want to do is do a program review with them by our side and understand what are the pressures that they are seeing on their workers and on their resources so that we can best suit them to meet today's challenges. So that is a way we're using data, our partners, and committing to an ongoing process of improvement, as opposed to saying to continue to fund the same thing over and over again, or missing the mark and funding something that is no longer working.
Thank you. One more follow-up question. Are you starting to collect this data? Or like I heard that 3 years ago there are also this program have been already implemented, but I just want to know if you started collecting this data so that we will know that these are like programs that are effective or sustainable.
Yes, so like I said, any program that the city either delivers directly ourselves or through a contract, we are collecting data and have been collecting data for a number of years. So yes, we do have that data. We probably actually have more data than we know what to do with sometimes. But that is a process that we're doing and making sure that anything being spent is useful. And so I speak about the Clean Sweep program as in terms of a very productive program that we see value in, but we still need to have a conversation around whether they're getting the right resources to do the job. On the flip side, a program that was funded in the last operating budget was the Downtown Safety Education Sessions, and that was done in partnership with the BRZ. And coming out of COVID, we recognized that the way that those sessions were delivered pre-COVID with high demand and high interest were no longer being received. And so instead of continuing to deliver those, we actually stopped delivering those sessions because we just weren't getting the turnout that we had. We tried a couple different approaches and they didn't work. So that is one of the programs that we'll also be renewing, and we have not been spending those dollars since that decision was made. So when I speak to the unspent dollars that we would look to tap into in the short term, some of those dollars are from a program like the Downtown Safety Education Sessions, which we're not having a productive outcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Just want to check an assumption that I'm making as I go through here. I know you're going to be bringing back the plan. As I look at the alternative response model, as I look at framing the issue, the actual issues that we're dealing with, more and more it looks like we're going into mental health, social services, etc. When will you be looking for direction from this council as to how far we want you going off into those areas? I'm fine with you completely going into those areas, but I'm only one vote.
So Ms. Sherry spoke a little bit to Councillor Schmidt-Rempel's question on how we're taking the community conversation and applying it to where we're at. And so we haven't quite got there yet. We had this scheduled. We haven't had a chance to report back on the community conversations to our committee behind me yet. That meeting is coming up in the next couple of weeks. But I did do just a quick exercise where I went, okay, if this was the actual distribution of $4,600 and we applied it to our current distribution with a known police budget, which is quite large, we would be looking to spend, probably close to $50 million on education alone, just to meet that same ratio. We know that's not what we're going to bring forward. So that'll be a conversation we're having with our committee, is to say what sorts of recommendations are more feasible for council to consider. And that's kind of what is in our next steps before we're back in front of you.
Okay, that didn't actually answer the question though. The question is, a lot of the answers seem to be in provincial jurisdiction or in that line where some members of council may not be certain if we're still in our jurisdiction. How close are we to that line as we're moving ahead, and how do we maintain that line?
And I think the short answer is that's why we're presenting it to you, to feel what you actually accept in the plan, because our department, community social development as a whole, we are constantly in kind of the gray areas of those three pillars of different levels of government, and we take the direction from you. So with our encampment response and outreach as an example, it was an area that was for a while said to be outside of our zone. We then was clear direction from you to step into that zone, so we did, and we've been delivering that resource for the community since. So that will be part of this process, is making sure that anything that is presented to you is either accepted by you or taken out by you, so that we know where to proceed.
And you'll make the business case around it.
Yeah, and some of them, that's like the alternative response. We need a lot more time to build something out more robust, which would be why it's presented as the next phase of the process.
Yeah, and the MDA does give us that flexibility as long as it is the will of council, but I just, there's other orders of government as well. All right, thank you very much. If you two would like to have a seat, we will move to the motion. I have a motion from Councillor Campbell. Be it resolved that the Community Issues Committee received the Community Safety Strategy update for information. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you for the information, and it was really nice to get response from Mr. McHugh. He seems so much happier today than 3 years ago. So it's nice. I mean, you saw the issue, you joined a committee, and you made some results. So that's great. And now we're on our way with this strategy. So unless there's any other questions, I'll call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that passes unanimously again. Staying with the CSD department, we now move to Ms. Algren, Operations Manager, looking at Building Safety, Safer Community Report. Ties in with what we just heard, because we know that youth prevention is so important, and we have an amazing program that runs out of money in a month. So good news and bad news story. Ms. Algren, if you'd like to go ahead with your presentation.
I'm the Operations Manager for CSD. Today I will be presenting on the Building Safer Communities program. So when we talk about community safety, we often focus on what we can see. It's that immediate response that often includes enforcement. But long before police involvement or a court process, there's warning signs. This looks like disconnection from school, family stress, peer influences, and unmet mental health needs. Building Safer Communities was created to work in that space, looking at underlying factors that lead to justice involvement and being proactive through prevention. Today's presentation will walk through the journey of building safer communities and the impact this approach is having on youth, families, and the broader community. The Building Safer Communities Fund is through Public Safety Canada to address gang and gun violence, but at its core, it's about prevention and intervention for youth. While the funding spans 4 years, it's important to note that the program has only been operational since May of 2024. In that time, the team has moved quickly from planning to delivering services, and we're already seeing meaningful outcomes. The program was split into 3 phases. So next we'll go into each phase. Phase 1 was program planning and development. In the beginning, we intentionally slowed down. Rather than building a program on what we thought we knew, we listened to the community and examined local context through a youth needs assessment. What we heard consistently through the assessment was that youth are facing multiple overlapping risk factors. This includes limited positive supports, increased substance use, weak connections to school and community, and growing influences from peers and younger adults. At the same time, the assessment identified gaps in the system, particularly for justice-involved youth and preventative supports within school and the community. This told us something important, that if we wanted different outcomes, we needed a different kind of response. From there, we moved into phase 2, which was program implementation. Based on the information provided in the youth needs assessment, we built a dual approach, prevention and intervention, in close partnership with the Lethbridge Police Service. Prevention being education services and intervention being case management. A core piece of this work is our partnership with Lethbridge Police. Delivering these services in partnership has brought us strategic insight and operational support. Most importantly, it has allowed us to further reach at-risk youth in ways that complements rather than duplicates existing community efforts. Phase 3, which is where we are today, is program measures and outcomes. Case management is voluntary. It is strength-based and relationship-based. It focuses on youth between the ages of 12 and 17 who are either at risk or already involved in the justice system. Behaviors exhibited by these youth that lead to a referral include the use of violence to gain respect within their peer groups, radicalized ideologies, the glorification of pro-criminal affiliations, which often looks like showcasing gang affiliation, weapons, drugs, large sums of money online. Success here doesn't look like a single outcome. For one youth, it might be re-engaging with school, while for another youth, it might be reducing their contact with the justice system while stabilizing family supports. That's why we measure impact, not just by numbers, but by engagement, consistency, and change in risk over time. In a relatively short operational window, the program has received 40 referrals and completed 31 intakes. Youth who enter our program have multiple overlapping risk factors and require a coordinated response. The intake data directly informs how we structure our case management services for each youth, matching youth to the right combination of services, partners, and intensity of support. Our case managers work intentionally to support youth through a coordinated engagement with their caregivers and other professional supports. Case managers have spent a significant amount of time supporting youth with re-engaging in schools, navigating justice systems, and building trust to have meaningful conversations about their choices. A core belief of this program is that we want to ensure that we're building a system of support for youth. Case managers support youth with finding opportunities for meaningful activity, employment, and school through community referrals. I want to note that health and wellness also includes mental health. The number you see there is not a reflection of need, but rather limited supports available to youth that do not have long wait times or barriers to accessing services. These are the outcomes of the risk assessments. Participants are broken out into two groups, those who chose to engage more with the program and those who had less engagement. Engagement levels for youth varied on the youth's readiness for change and their life circumstances. Youth who had a decrease in their overall scores had 72% more engagement time, indicating a strong correlation between increased engagement and the reduction of risk. From here, we'll transition into the educator services. During the needs assessment, stakeholders consistently communicated about the increasing concern of high-risk online behaviors that are transitioning into the community and schools. At the same time, families and caregivers were telling us they were unsure how to navigate to these risks and respond early. Schools were asking for age-appropriate, prevention-focused content, and newcomer families in particular face additional barriers to accessing reliable information. To address these concerns within the community, educators focused on gaps in prevention by building knowledge, skills, and capacity within youth, families, caregivers, frontline workers, including teachers and admin. This includes developing an online safety curriculum, professional development for frontline workers, parent and caregiver tech talks, and culturally responsive resources. In schools, educators are supporting existing resources and not duplicating services. In just over a year, educator services reached more than 2,400 youth, 135 caregivers, and 150 frontline workers, bringing prevention efforts directly into school and community settings. Across youth, caregiver, and newcomer populations, we saw a significant increase in awareness and understanding of online safety, relationships, communication, and privacy. These results tell us that prevention messaging is landing, not just with one group, but across ages, cultures, and roles. When people better understand risk, they are more equipped to respond early. Whether that is a young person navigating online spaces, a caregiver starting a conversation, or a frontline worker identifying concerns sooner. Building safer communities is reducing risk for engaged youth, addressing gaps in our local system, and strengthening prevention across school and community settings. Next steps for the program. So federal funding will conclude on March 31st of this year, which means that educator and case management services will also end. Right now, we're working on sustainability and identifying alternate supports for youth on our caseload. We hope the learnings from this program will provide evidence, insight, and a strong foundation to inform future advocacy, funding, and a community-based response. Before I end, I want to take a moment to say that building safer communities is often described in numbers, referrals, assessments, and outcomes. And those numbers matter because they show accountability, progress, and impact. But behind every number is a young person who reached a point where they were willing to accept help, and a case manager who met them with patience, respect, and consistency. I want to recognize our case managers and educators. This work is not easy. They show up in complex situations, they navigate risk, and they build trust where trust has often been broken. They do this work with professionalism, compassion, and integrity. Much of the work happens quietly without recognition, but is changing lives in real ways. I also want to recognize the individuals and families who engage with building safer communities. Asking for support takes courage. Showing up, staying engaged, and choosing something different is not easy. The people who access these services are not defined by their challenges. They are defined by their willingness to try, grow, and move forward. They are deserving of care, dignity, and opportunity. Building safer communities is not about one program or one department. It's about a shared commitment to prevention, early intervention, and the belief that when we invest in people, and especially in critical moments, that we strengthen an entire community. I am proud of this team, and I'm proud of the partnerships that support this work. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you. Yes, this was an amazing program, and I hope we can see parts of it continue on. First, though, I will go to the public to see if there is anyone who wishes to speak on this topic. And then I look to my colleagues. I don't see anyone in the queue. Oh, Councillor Wolf, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I understand some of the terms here. So when you say 31 intakes, you mean youth that were a part of the program. Is that what 31 intakes means?
Correct. So 31 youth completed consent forms for the program to participate.
Okay, and then I see here when we get three, and I can read here what happened. Some of them weren't involved. They weren't 90 days, but can you speak to 31 intakes, but how many kind of went the distance to your desired satisfaction? Like how many kind of went through the process that you would hope they would go through?
Okay. I think that's a tricky answer because, like I said in the beginning, success for each youth is going to be so different, and what we define as success or hope for a youth might be very different than what they see for themselves. I
can reframe the question if you want.
Sure.
So, for example, when you do the intake, the program is designed for you to work with them ideally for how long?
There is no end date for the program because it is based off their journey. We do hope that youth do move through the program, correct? But there is no end date. For some youth, it is 6 months. Some youth, depending on their risk, it might be a lighter touch point. And then some youth, they have been on our caseload for about a year just because of some of the complex things that they are facing.
Okay. I guess what I'm trying to, just for my knowledge and for everybody's knowledge, as we have to consider this program or elements of it, is like, you know, are you intaking 31 and 180 days later you're down to 3?
No, so right now it's a little bit of a different situation. So I'd say up until about in the fall, we had a full caseload. Each case manager holds a caseload of 10. But because of the uncertainty of the future, we had to slow down intakes for the program just because it wasn't fair to youth that were accessing services. So right now we do have a lower caseload just because we're trying to plan for the youth.
Right.
But while we were fully operational, we did have a full caseload of 10 and 10.
Okay. And when you had that full caseload, you're saying here your optimal success rate is 2,224 average minutes, which is 37 hours. So when you had that full caseload with the number of people you had employed to help these folks, could they accommodate 37 hours of time? Could they do that?
Yes, the interactions with people ebb and flow because sometimes people will people naturally, right, and things happen. But yes, our case managers were easily able to manage the numbers they had on their caseload. Yeah.
One last question, if I may. So what kind of interactions or partnership or feedback from the school divisions do we have as to the future of this program, or how they feel it was implemented and helped, or what do we know from them?
Yeah, my educator Ashley is actually in the crowd, and she's done a lot of great work building those relationships with the school and our other educator that moved to another position. But even right now, you know, we're communicating with the schools that the program is ending, so we can't you know, book more. Our educator services are fully booked all the way until the last day of March. The schools see it as a really great resource and utilize it. We also got 2 other letters from schools of support, kind of expressing their gratitude for the program and the impact and how meaningful they find it.
Sorry, that leads me to one last question, if I may. Maybe you can't speak to this specifically, but how many of these youth are quote unquote in the system, like maybe in the foster system or not with their parents? Do you have any concept of that? The only reason I ask is because if they're wards of the state, then presumably there's some leverage to try to get the province to kind of do their job and help these folks out.
Maybe some of the youth do have interaction with Children's Services, but the Children's Services mandate has also shifted in how they interpret their legislation now. And what we are seeing is that there is less interactions or less intervention from Children's Services at times. So youth may have interaction with the Children's Services, but not many on our caseload.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Councillor Doria, please go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, it's not really a question, but the funding will end by the end of March. And then I'm just like thinking whether our collaborators, our partners were in, like the educators, they did a very, very good job on this program. Are they still committed to continue the program, like for sustainability reasons? So I know there are plans to go ahead, there are next steps on sustainability directions, but I really appreciate those efforts that the educators like provided to this program. This program is so good. Are they still committed to move forward, to work with us forward when there is already a cut of our funding by the end of March 2026?
So in terms of the resources, then the staff that we have today, their last possible date of working with us is March 31st. However, of course, we recognize that people are going to seek out their next opportunity. And so we've already lost 1.5 of our total positions as of today. And I'm assuming the other are in conversation. I know a couple of our behind me have said they're going to ride this right till the end, which is greatly appreciated. But in terms of some other points in here, in terms of sustainability, was building resources that could live in the community beyond our end date of March 31st. And so the cyber toolkit has already transitioned from being held on the City of Lethbridge website to being with Lethbridge Police Services. And Lethbridge Police Services is dedicated to continuing to keep that live on their website. Some of the resources that our educators have developed have been developed in a way to try to get as much life out of them as possible, and they will be given to the schools to be used for a period of time. I think the reality is that things, especially when we're dealing with cyber security and online stuff, is they will become out of date at some point, and that some point is probably not that far into the future. So they will continue to exist for as long as they possibly can. But there is going to be no resource from us at this point in time beyond March 31st to help keep those going.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the update on this program. We talked a little bit about will our partners continue with the program, where things will be housed, but when the program comes to the end, where do these young people go?
And that's the hard part. Within the youth needs assessment, it was identified that there was that gap with justice-involved youth. Currently in Lethbridge, there is minimal supports for youth who are involved in the justice system, and they do not meet the requirements for other youth programming within Lethbridge. So we will try our best to connect them to other services in Lethbridge and meet some of those final goals the best we can.
But at this point, and we identified that last year during one of our studies, that, yeah, there is this gap. And how many do you expect will fall in that gap when the funding ends? Do we have an estimated number as to how many youth we will no longer be helping?
I would probably assume about 90% of them.
About 90%?
Yeah.
Do we have sort of a number as, like, not a percent number, but how many individual people that is?
Not off the top of my head. I would say that's probably about maybe 13 youth.
Okay. And then when this work is in place, what does it mean long-term for those individuals in our city and for our city? Like, what is, for lack of a better term, what's the return on investment in doing this work?
So that question ties nicely to the previous presentation around the impact of the non-enforcement side, so the prevention and the early intervention. And it's really hard to put a return on that investment, but we do know through our work with FCSS in particular that prevention punches way above its weight in terms of return on the dollar. It also means that those individuals haven't had to go through the trauma and the challenges that intervention or enforcement are getting them out of. So we know from the FCSS programs we oversee and those dollars is that prevention is greatly needed in our community. We saw in the last call for proposal about double what we had in available funds. This was a program that did plug a little bit of a gap there, but the gap that exists around prevention, whether it's youth-based or not, is growing in communities in Alberta and across the country, I would say.
Okay, and we know from, like what you said, from our FCSS partners, that when we invest in prevention and intervention, it helps everybody long-term.
Yeah, that's, I think, pretty well understood in the social service ecosystem.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think the overarching theme of both presentations is when you underfund healthcare and housing and social services, then you have to try to solve it with programs like this, where you could just fund this stuff originally. But again, that's my soapbox. When you're looking at something like this, we got this grant originally because of the need. Right? It wasn't, not every community got it. We got it because of the need. Did we ever look into why? Why does Lethbridge have such a high number of youth? What are we missing? Is it we're missing services? What's causing this and what can we do?
I'll speak a little bit to it just based on more of the findings of our previously completed community wellbeing and safety strategy. And I think there are a number of underlying conditions that stack. One is, I think, just the amount of dollars, disposable income that exists in our community. The average family income is quite low compared to the national average. We have higher than average rates of FASD. We have a large Indigenous population, and that population carries with it other gaps, like a lack of culturally supportive services. And then what we do have is also a gap in the services that are available that we've spoken about specifically to youth. So I think it's a stacking of a whole bunch of different conditions. There was a chart earlier in the presentation that showed that Lethbridge is above the average in a bunch of these areas in Alberta. But the reality is there's communities like us facing these gaps everywhere as well. So while we are higher than average, we are still not unique to the point that we have issues or challenges that others don't have. When we presented or put together the initial Building Safer Communities report, I know one of the pieces that held really strong for us was that partnership with Lethbridge Police Service and that commitment to be tied to individuals who are having touch points with enforcement and law to get them out at an earlier point in time. And so that is in many ways an alternative response. These programs are helping our police service manage individuals ahead or upstream, I guess, as opposed to downstream where they touch them on multiple different points.
We know, unfortunately, that a good indicator that you will be unhoused as an adult is being unhoused as a youth, right? Almost guaranteed that you will. And the less time you spend on the street, the easier it is to get you back into a better situation. How many youth shelter beds do we have in this community?
Currently, right now, through WIDS, there is 8.
And are they 100% used all the time?
That I can't fully speak to. I do know that with the Medicine Hat Youth Shelter closing, that there was an influx of youth that did come to Lethbridge. But what their numbers are at right now, I am not sure. I know they're highly utilized, though.
And when we look at our domestic violence shelter spaces, which also again affects youth, because when a woman heads into a domestic violence shelter space, chances are her children are with her. Do we have sufficient space there?
So similarly, there's some ebbs and flows, but we do know that the domestic violence shelter is often at capacity and there's often waiting times. Recently, the city of Lethbridge helped invest in the expansion of the HOPE program, which created some flow to free up some space within the domestic violence shelter itself. But I believe them, like Woods Homes, are often close to or at capacity.
So again, advocacy work could definitely be done in those areas, in the poverty areas, et cetera. All right, thank you. Councillor Wolf?
Yeah, you had mentioned that there's insufficient resources in Lethbridge, which I believe you. So this was a federal grant. So again, we just actually, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel and myself were with Minister Neudorf yesterday. He had mentioned, some of the dynamics of politics. And so how do we advocate to Edmonton, where maybe we are still perceived as this great little town where our biggest problem is picking up candy wrappers from the cement? How do we help them understand? And do you have any precedents for any programs or any models that are working elsewhere that are getting provincial funding to a healthcare need that we should be advocating for that we don't have? And maybe it's just because they don't know we need it, or maybe it's because we've crossed that threshold of the bigger city that now has these bigger city problems.
I will look to maybe Director Carly Kleisinger or even Gerald from City Manager's office to speak to the advocacy efforts, but I think we are engaged in those advocacy conversations currently. It's just running out of time.
Yeah, I think I can probably touch on a few points. One of them is I know that as we wrap up this program, and this truly is a wrap up, we always knew that at the beginning we were getting this grant funding and then it was going to come to an end. So not wanting to this is truly just to say this is the program. It has done really well. Unfortunately, the federal government chose not to renew it, so we are wrapping it up. But at the same time, we saw an opportunity that maybe some of our provincial partners may be interested in this topic. And so as early as last week, Mayor Hagan and some of us from administration were speaking with Minister Wilson on this exact topic of helping understand this project and knowing that there is a gap. And we've identified the gap because we went in and we spent the last couple of years working in it, and now we see as we wind it down that it's there. So I would say that Mayor Hagan has a lot of the documents that we have provided, and we're hoping that in the next week, 2 weeks, we do hear more to see whether or not there might be some opportunities continue, even in some fashion, or for the next little while to continue some of this work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are you good, Councillor Wolf?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry. All right, I see an end to the questions, so we will move to the motion. Thank you both very much. You can have a seat. I have a motion from Councillor Parker. Be it resolved that the Community Issues Committee receive the Building Safer Communities BSC project update for information. Councillor Parker.
Just call the question. Thank you.
Question's been called. All in favor? All right, passes unanimously. We now leave behind our presentations part of the agenda and we move to submissions. That does not get CSD off the hook though, because our first submission is the Encampment Strategy Council update. And if we have any questions on that, Mr. Malcolm and Ms. Algren are here to speak to it. If there are no questions, we will simply move to the motion to accept it for information, assuming everybody has read it from top to bottom. We have a question. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. And I believe I can direct this to Ms. Kleisinger with regard to the encampment strategy update, or should I direct this to Mr. Malcolm? To Mr. Malcolm. Congratulations, Mr. Malcolm.
And she said that before she knew what the question was, so.
Saw that. Thank you very much for bringing forward the update on this. Good information and good to see how things are moving forward, the effectiveness of the strategy. Are we doing anything with regards to encampment strategy outside of the downtown core? We have some individuals and businesses close to and near around the shelter area that have some concerns. How are we addressing those concerns with the encampment strategy?
Thank you for the question. So our encampment strategy and our encampment response is a citywide response. And so the downtown does not get a differential treatment than the rest of the community. However, what we do see is that the pressure points in the community do move around. And so what might have started as a pressure point in some downtown locations in the first year of the program have now shifted. And we recognize that some relocation of social services and some other pressures have meant that that population is shifting in our community. But our team remains fully available to respond to anything that's reported. And there are a few businesses specifically in that area that have reached out, and that myself directly and my team have gone out and met with face-to-face and had those conversations. The reality is that it's not always just an encampment problem. It is all of those things that we've talked about today. And so some things like a physical structure we are better equipped at responding to. The social disorder behaviors that go with it are a little less straightforward. So, but we encourage the community to report those through the 311 online or the 311 phone number, and our team is ready to respond.
Thank you very much. And my follow-up question was going to be, how do people report it? But you answered my question in advance. Thank you very much.
He's a mind reader today. All right, Councillor Wolf, go right ahead.
Thank you. I was reading through the documentation, and this had come up in a previous meeting. So I can't remember where I found this, but it talked about the weapons that are confiscated at some of the encampments. It mentioned batons and swords and something else. Is it illegal to possess a baton in Lethbridge?
I'm going to see if...
There's a method to my madness here. I'm getting somewhere.
Deputy Chief Gromer may want to come answer
Like,
that
is
one,
there,
just so I don't put my
is there a
foot in my
federal
mouth.
program to return them and I can get paid?
Thank you. It depends on what you are referring to as a baton. So
I'm just going with the report used that term.
well, so something like this,
Yeah.
that's collapsible is illegal.
Okay.
A regular stick as a baton is not.
Okay, the reason I'm asking the question is we see when we get to the encampments, we seem to have the ability to confiscate some items that may or may not be illegal.
Yes.
What do I need to do to empower you folks to confiscate the tents? Because we're already confiscating stuff that's their possession, so we can obviously do it. So what do I need to do to help you confiscate the tents?
Yeah, it's a good question. And in terms of the actual, we're currently exploring that. So between Lethbridge Police Services, our regulatory services, and our team, we are having those conversations. When we go back to the first presentation on the community safety strategy, when we talked about exploring bylaws, that's certainly something that we're looking into. Our team went up to Calgary and Edmonton recently with Lethbridge Police Service to learn more about what they are doing, and they have a few bylaws that they've made adjustments to give them a little bit more grounds to do that. The challenge will always be in trying to determine what is someone's belonging, and then it has to hit a different trigger point, like being a biohazard or being a risk, a contributor to public risk, as to that point in which confiscation can take place. But that is an area that we're currently exploring, and so I think we'll be better positioned to answer your question in the next few months.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up, and then I can turn it over to Councillor Beaver. So I just want to make sure I understand some numbers here. Here on page 6, we have, by my count, 56 referrals to housing. And then if we scroll down, aside from people going home to family, we found housing for 7, so like 13%. So do I infer from that you make the referral and then these folks just disappear and don't follow up? Is that a correct kind of assumption?
I will maybe ask if Ms. Algren can come up and speak specifically to that, but there are many different types of referrals, so I'll see if those are specific to housing referrals. I don't have the sheet right in front of me.
It just
but
says individuals
yes,
housed.
I
Yeah.
think the safe assumption would be that many are unsuccessful for a variety of different reasons. But did you hear the question?
So in 2025, we supported 15 individuals exiting homelessness. A lot of that is based off wait times, criteria, and acceptance rates. Even though that we've made 54 referrals to housing programs and 54 individuals are not housed, that is because of wait lists or acceptance criteria for certain housing programs.
And so when you say housing, you're looking at something a little more permanent than like them attending the shelter regularly.
Correct.
Right? Okay. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Councillor Bieber, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question, I think, would be best answered by Deputy Chief Grobmeier, if I could, please. Thanks for taking this. I mean, this is a question I've heard a lot of people ask in the community, and I just wonder, how much of a criminal element is hiding among these people, trying to avoid warrants, trying to avoid arrests? Is it possible to give some type of idea?
That's a great question. So I don't have any stats with me on that. There's certainly a criminal element there, and there are certainly people there that are on warrants. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily hiding out from us on the warrants, but that is just their life. The bigger concern that we have, honestly, is the criminal element that surrounds themselves around the encampments, that feed on those individuals that are in encampments, that exploit those individuals that are in encampments. Those are, we certainly have our concerns with those in the encampments, but we spend a significant amount of time trying to target those individuals that are targeting the people living in the encampments.
Very much. Mr. Malcolm, one of my questions, I like good word salad like anyone else, but I must admit, I'm not sure what this means. It's talking about that we have a larger shelter, but shelter use decline because of changing patterns of service utilization. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so in the point in time count, one of the, I guess, concerning numbers that jumped off for us is that we have just invested, not we, the community has invested in a significant shelter expansion, and yet the utilization rate was down. Those two numbers would tell us that there's something there. And so what we mean about the service is that it's a little bit more complicated than just creating a space for someone. There are gaps in the services, and there's very complex reasons why an individual may not access that. I'm happy to report, however, we did get shelter numbers as of yesterday, and that the numbers are going up. So I think that this is an example of...
You mean in the middle of a blizzard, the shelter numbers are going up?
Well, not just in a blizzard period. We've had a very mild winter, but the numbers from November moving into January, February are showing a very positive trend. So we believe that that's an example of a service provider growing into their space and finding out how to meet people where they're at. That has directly influenced the area around the shelter, which has been a hot spot for us for a number of, almost a year now. And that when we have made a couple significant arrests in the area, and then combine that with increased shelter stays, that area has become increasingly better. And so it just shows how complex this issue is. But specific to your point, it's around that utilization number being low despite an expansion, which we thought was important to call out. But I will also recognize that that number is now been going up in consecutive months, which is a great sign.
Because that has been a concern we've heard a lot, is that people, for all kinds of reasons, don't want to use the shelter. And so I'm glad to hear that the numbers are going up there. Now, this point in time, you call an enumeration. It's more of an estimate than some of the others. So while there has been a slight decline, does your experience suggest that that decline is simply a statistical error, or is it something we're actually seeing the first decline in since 2014?
So The enumeration is still a physical count. So we had almost 100 volunteers out there in a variety of different zones on the night of the count, physically counting people. The difference is that every 3 years we have to do a survey where we have to ask individuals whether they would be compliant in answering a bunch of other questions. So it's actually quite streamlined and simple. And I would think that I actually think that our enumeration count is the most effective because we get it done in a shorter period of time, whereas the survey draws us out, which means there's more opportunity for movement in the community. So I'm quite confident that some changes we made in our methodology, on top of the fact that it was just the enumeration, not the survey, that this is an effective count for our community. And the other piece is that it's a point-in-time count is one count. We also have our by names list or unique identifier list, which is supported through other efforts that our department oversees. And the positive piece is that those numbers are now telling us a very similar picture, whereas it's taken us a number of years to get that list to say the same thing. And so there was a great differentiator in terms of data points and not knowing which one to follow. That gap is closing in these two counts, which tell us different things, but they're telling us a very similar number and story.
So we're holding steady-ish, because I mean, there's been a decline, but not great percentage, but we're not increasing dramatically right now.
That's correct. Yeah, if there's a chart in there that shows that the period of 2018 to 2022, I believe, was over 100% increase. Then the 2022 to 24, we saw a 15% increase, and now we're actually seeing again moderate, but still a decline. So the trend over the last 4 years is definitely moving in the right direction, and we're not going to sit on that, but it certainly seems like investments that are being made in our community and efforts are moving things in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's going in the right direction, but you're right. We still have a lot of people to find homes for and to find services for. Thank you very much. We'll be moving to the motion now. So I think that was your last one, Mr. Malcolm. So thank you for spending the afternoon with us. Councillor Doria, this is your motion. Be it resolved that the Community Issues Committee receive the Encampment Strategy Council update for information. Go ahead, Councillor Doria.
First of all, I just want to thank you. Thank you for the updates. And the work you have done is very impressive despite the challenges you are facing. So thank you so much for that. So if there's no questions for this report, I call for a question.
Okay, question's been called. All in favor? And that one too has been accepted for information. Moving to 6.2, the next submission. This is the amendment to the noise bylaw. This one, we have, of course, Mr. Lowen in the room, but we also have Mr. Enns, the Regulatory Services GM, to speak to. This has been housekeeping. You should have the red line version if you have any questions. Are there any questions from members of the committee related to this? All right, I don't see anyone lighting up the board at all. So let me read the motion. And then we can see if we just want to pass this along. So this one is not just for information. Be it resolved that the Community Issues Committee recommends that City Council provide first reading to Bylaw 6512, a bylaw to amend Bylaw 5270, noise bylaw, as provided in Attachment 2. This motion is for Deputy Mayor Schmidt-Rempel. Oh, just a second. I am seeing Councillor Campbell in the queue. Councillor Campbell, is this for debate or for question?
Just since you're here, I just wanted maybe, since you're in public and we're here, and just give us a high level account about why this is before us today.
Certainly. This is formalizing a delegation of discretion to give exceptions to noise. In the bylaw itself, there's a couple sections that if there's construction going on, you're allowed to do it outside of the times as long as you get a permit from the city. There's also exceptions in there for snow removal. In some retail and health services need to have snow removal done prior to the time, 7 o'clock in the morning. So that's the main reason for this. And what we're talking about is we're extending this to events, which have been in the last couple of years, but extending to events that need some exceptions. Examples would be the Fresh Fest at the University of Lethbridge. Hudson's had a thing in the parking lot, Electric Music Festival. So there's about like 5 or so of these. We've had like 18, I think in 25, and there was about 5 or so that was events. In addition to that, Screen Lethbridge is trying to smooth out regulations for certain things that come into town, certain productions, and this would also give the city the ability to give exceptions to, let's say, a Brad Pitt movie, for instance. If they're going on the main street and they want to shoot off a couple firecrackers, they would go through this process and get an exception. So it is codifying something that is done already. It's extending that, and it also assists in some of these groups being able to have these events outside of the hours.
Is it sort of, is it within the power of the city manager? Is he kind
Well,
of?
it's delegated to the city manager, but I think the city manager's office is the one that hands out the permits. Since we do some of the enforcement, we can't issue, it has to be a separate party, and they will issue out the
So it's kind of
exceptions.
to help a little bit with a little bit of red tape so you know what you're doing.
That's
Sort of,
right.
Yeah.
And so these permits that are issued, they cap the time frame of what these events can do, so they give it a set time frame. They give guidelines in what you're supposed to do, and also indicate that if it extends to noise that is really causing an issue, we're allowed to still come and ask that these events be shut down. And then if there are significant problems and they don't follow these permits, we can refuse them the next year. So it just kind of gives guidelines for that.
So if say whatever concert is outside and you've got it, but you get a whole mass of people complaining about it, the next year you may say, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
trying to
the-
find
yeah.
a balance. We
Right.
want to encourage events coming into town. At the same time, individuals do have some expectations of some quietness or whatever. So it's trying to strike a balance between the two. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. We will go back to the motion that was read. Deputy Mayor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. Again, this motion is to recommend that City Council provide first reading to the new noise bylaw. And I expect we will have some robust discussion in the council chambers at that time.
Well,
I will call for the vote.
Also lets the public know we're looking at making changes so that they also have
Yep.
time to respond before it hits the next agenda. All right. So motion has been made and question called. All in favor? And that is referred on to City Council. All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to the last item on the agenda. This is a report on the Intercity Forum on Social Policy. It was put into the motion when Councillor Schmidt-Rempel was put onto this forum that she would report back. She has done so, and her 2025 debrief is there. Are there any questions? I don't see any. All right. This motion has been given to Councillor Dodick. Be it resolved that the Community Issues Committee receive the Intercity Forum on Social Policy 2025 notes for information. Councillor Dodick. And you can thank her too if you want to.
Thank you.
You want to say you're welcome? Oh.
You're welcome.
Call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? We're out of here. Go home, everybody. Thank you, everybody in administration, for your support again today.